What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another video. Today we're building the deadliest hunting arrow on the planet. Maybe not actually, but let's say really solid arrow setup. Obviously I got one made here, but I'm going to be fletching some more in this video, breaking down the setup and also explaining to you guys what works in arrow setup, what you want in your hunting arrow setup. If you guys didn't know, I literally build arrows for a living. I work at a pro shop, and my main job there is to build arrows. I build all of our online orders, all of our in-store orders, refletches, stuff like that. That's kind of my main task. Obviously help customers work on bows, stuff like that too. But main task is arrow builder. They've dubbed me the Arrowsmith. So Arrowsmith Kate is gonna give you guys a breakdown on my hunting arrow setup for this year and why you should try to replicate it, or at least kind of get somewhere close, because this is a really solid setup. I literally just shot through an iron steel target a few days ago 2 times with the same arrow without the end blowing up or anything like that. I was shooting with some buddies. We had a little competition shoot and their arrows would blow up first time, and they were amazed by my setup because it was going right through steel. Stay tuned. I got some good tips in there for you. I know I'm gonna get blasted in the comments for some of the stuff because everyone has their preference on arrow setup. I'm giving you guys my preference today and building more, because we have a bunch of shafts here. We're not going to build the full dozen today, just 6. I guess actually 5, because we already have one built obviously, but we're going to do 5 more to get half a dozen. I'll build the other dozen another time. I just want to walk you guys through my hunting arrow setup and again, break down why it is a deadly killer. Alrighty y'all, so the shaft, we're going to start with the shaft. Shaft is the Easton 5mm 5.0. It's kind of like a lighter version of an Axis. The Axis, my main go-to hunting arrow. That's what I recommend, honestly, to everyone at the shop. Like, someone comes in, they're like, hey, give me the best hunting arrow you got. I'm going to grab an Easton Axis literally 10 times out of 10, unless they ask for a specific weight, which is why I'm shooting the 5.0. I'll get to that here in just a second. I'm pretty much going to point them to the Axis, again, unless they want something very specific. So, like I said, kind of like a lighter version of the Axis, just came out this year. Definitely not the cheapest arrow, but it's a really solid one. There's been some questions about its durability with it being so light. You got such a thin wall in there. I've not run into any issues. We shot a lot of hogs with these in Texas between me and my coworkers. Didn't run into any durability issues there, them bouncing off rocks and stuff. And then just shooting in the yard, I mean, I've hit, like I said, I shot through steel the other day, 2 times with the same arrow. It didn't even blow up. It did on the 3rd time, but 2 times it didn't blow up. If it could go through steel, I could trust it going through an animal. Like I said, just addressing the durability problems, or I guess you could say speculations with the 5.0, because I haven't had any problems. I can see where that could be the case though. Like I said, 5.0 and 300 spine. As far as the fletching goes, we're shooting a Bowling X-Vein, the 3-inch version with the shield cut, fletched with a slight left helical. Honestly, helical doesn't really matter that much, but I like to run it, honestly, just because it looks pretty cool. Shooting a 3 fletch, I think 4 fletch generally looks better than a 4 fletch. But if you're gonna do a 3 fletch, helical looks good. So went with left because that's the way that Matthews clocks. So again, doesn't really help with spin. There's been all kinds of tests done on it. Doesn't do really anything for arrow spin, to be honest, but it looks pretty good on 3 fletch. So left helical, and then obviously orange wrap, 4-inch orange wrap and a knock to match that. We'll just run the AE IP knocks, which are hands down the best knocks out there. Oh, and then front end, we have something a little special, which I'll save for later in the video. Part of the reason why it was able to go through steel and not have a problem, like I said, save that for later in the video and talk about weight and stuff a little later on in the video. After we get these built, we'll weigh them, shoot them through the chronograph, get speeds and everything, give you guys the full rundown on the setup. So like I said, we are going to be fletching some today. Let's go ahead and start putting the wraps on these arrows. All right, so applying the wrap here, like I said, it's a 4-inch, but we're just lining up the shaft, rolling, and then I like to just lay down that initial first seam and then the last one. There you go, all wrapped up, ready to be fletched. All right, we got all of our arrows wrapped here. Obviously, like I said, 4-inch flow orange. I'm gonna set these other ones up here. Oh, also forgot to mention, these are cut to 29.5 inches. A little tip, if you don't know what length to cut your arrows to, go off your draw length and do that measurement from carbon to carbon. So that doesn't include a knock, outsert, anything like that. Carbon to carbon, 29.5 inch draw length, so a 29.5 inch arrow, again, carbon to carbon, just the shaft itself. Is knock size, half out, whatever your rifle can change from arrow to arrow. Carbon to carbon length does not. As far as fletching them goes, got my X veins here, and then, like I said, left helical. This is a Bitzenberger fletching jig, the only fletching jig that anyone should ever use if you're looking to fletch arrows. By far the best, most precise, easiest to operate. It can get the job done. Okay, got the arrow in the jig. What we are going to do, if you guys have never fletched arrows or seen arrows fletched before, it's pretty simple concept. We have our glue here. This is the Bob Smith glue. Some people use the actual bowling glue. Some companies you definitely have to be specific with. Thankfully, bowling makes it easy. You can honestly do, you could literally like spit on their veins and they will stick. It's pretty impressive. So, which is part of the reason why I shoot bowling veins. They don't come off too easy. They're easy to fletch. I really like them. But we're essentially going to run a thin bead down the foot of the vein. Pretty simple, straightforward. Honestly, that one wasn't the cleanest because we had a big glop of glue on the top of the bottle, and then we're just clamping down onto our shaft, just like so. You want to have pressure on there. I'm doing it at a weird angle so the camera can see it, but want to keep pressure on there. And then I'll run a Q-tip along here if any glue seeps out. This one didn't really have much, but just keep everything clean, looking good. Yeah, it's literally as simple as that. Just putting the thing in the clamp, putting down some pressure and letting it sit, and then we can go ahead and load our next one. Okay. I'm patting these out on this paper towel, basically to spread out the glue, and also you don't need that much glue, so it takes out a lot of the excess glue that you get whenever you're going down the foot of that vein. So it helps spreads the glue out along the foot of the vein, but also it gets rid of a lot of the excess glue you don't need. We had a little bit of glue seep out the back, so just clean that up with a Q-tip. The next one on there. Got good. Here goes our last vein. Wipe off excess glue. There you go. That is a completely fletched arrow. Right there, just like that. Super, super simple. We are going to, I'll throw out time lapse honestly, because y'all probably don't want to sit. I've seen videos that are like 40 minutes long of people just fletching arrows. I don't enjoy watching that. I imagine y'all probably don't too. So I'll put it on time lapse, and then we will break down the actual setup. Again, I'll talk about the front end, what I got going on there, FOC, hint, don't even think about FOC. But we'll talk about all that here in just a sec. Whenever I finish up these arrows, I'll send it into a time lapse real quick, and yeah, then we'll talk about that. All right, y'all, finished arrow build. They look pretty sweet, if I do say so myself. I'm a big fan of the orange. I got an orange bowstring on my lift to match, so it looks really good. And I just really like the orange. I think it looks great. But now I want to break down some specs. We're gonna weigh these things, put them on scale real quick, see what they come out to total weight. And then also I'm gonna talk about that front end that I was kind of alluding to earlier, and why this is such a deadly setup. Okay, so first things first, we are running the match grade collars on the end. These are stainless steel collars. That there is what they look like, but it literally just slides over the end of the shaft, just like that, and then it's actually held in by the field point with friction. It's not screwed or glue on or anything. It's just held in by the field point. And that's honestly just to get a little bit more weight up front, because I'm running the factory 16 grain hit insert, so adding about roughly 20 grains with that collar up front, that put me at like 36 grains, and then obviously field tip, so about 136 grains up front, and then on the back we have probably about 40 grains on the backside of the arrow between fletchings and nocks, the wrap, stuff like that. Let's pull out our handy dandy little scale here. Got this a few months ago from Carbon Express. It was literally like 10 bucks. And that's why I picked out this one. It's just because it is so ridiculously cheap. All right, on. Let's throw the complete one on there with the tip and everything. Let's see. Yep, that's what I figured. 429.6, so call it 430 grains, which literally is exactly where I want to be. That's what I calculated for whenever I went to build these arrows. 430 grains, honestly, to me, is the sweet spot, especially for whitetail. That's just the perfect place, the perfect weight. Honestly, anything from 400 grains all the way up to about 440, 450 grains on the top end of that is the perfect weight for whitetail, because whenever you start getting too heavy, you lose speed. I know people are going to talk about momentum. All that stuff is garbage, y'all. It doesn't matter if you have all this momentum from the front end of the shaft, which really doesn't matter all that much, to be honest, if it's leaving the bow at such a slow speed to begin with. Because if you think about it, you lose so much energy on impact of the animal, especially if you're pushing a mechanical or a bigger mechanical. Especially, that's the biggest thing right now, is pushing a giant mechanical through an animal. You lose so much energy on impact because you have to open those blades. So I don't want to shoot a 600 grain arrow that's only flying 250 feet per second out of my bow with a 2.5 inch cut mechanical on the front. That setup's not going to get pass-throughs. It rarely does. And I hear a lot of stories at the shop that I work at from people shooting a very heavy arrow setup, or they've got a short draw length trying to shoot a slightly heavy arrow setup even, and a giant mechanical on the front. So kind of a double-edged sword. Big mechanicals and heavy arrows, I don't think either of which are great for most people. If you can push it, if you got like a 31 inch draw length, you're shooting 80 pounds, go for it. But for the majority of us, that's just not realistic. So kind of two different things. Primarily focusing on the heavy arrow thing. It's not what people make it out to be. Please don't get on that train. This is where it's at, honestly. That sweet spot of something in that 400, like I said, 400 to 440, 450 grains. You're hitting them with something heavy enough that's got plenty of force behind it, but also you still have plenty of speed. So I can open a 2.5 inch mechanical with no problem. Again, it's the perfect combination, makes it a deadly killer. Like I said, I shot through a steel target 2 times with one arrow, just like this. This exact setup, the 5.0, which people have been saying is a fragile arrow to begin with. Again, I literally shot through steel with one. And a lot of that is because, first off, I'm shooting really, really fast in the low 300s, which we're gonna try to shoot through the chronograph here in a minute and see if it works. I just got a new one. I haven't even set it up yet. So we'll see. Worst case scenario, I'll just take it to the shop tomorrow, shoot it there, and I'll put the speeds on screen. But we're shooting in the low 300s with this arrow setup, 75 pounds, 29.5 inch draw length. Like I said, 429 grains, super, super fast. And we got that stainless steel match grade collar on the front to protect the shaft. It is a deadly setup. Obviously gonna be running broadheads, not shooting those match grade tips through animals, but the collar definitely helps as far as stability of the front end of the arrow specifically. Anyways, absolutely deadly setup. I don't think many people have an arrow setup that's shooting through steel. I'm not trying to brag on it, but it's a really, really solid setup. And I would trust this arrow setup to kill anything in North America, or I should say my bow setup in general, including the arrow. I would go hunting big game with it in Alaska. I'd shoot a moose with it. I would shoot an elk with it. Again, I trust it and do those things because of the amount of energy I'm producing, and that's what matters most. Aside from shot placement, what matters most with your equipment is the amount of energy that you're producing. All right, so chrono is unfortunately not working. So I'm going to take it to the shop tomorrow, shoot it through our chrono at the shop. We just got a new one there too, actually. And I'll put the speed and kinetic energy conversion on the screen right now so you guys can see what kind of energy we're producing. And one more time, just to break it down for you guys, this is the build right here, Easton 5.0 in a 300 spine, cut 29.5 inches carbon to carbon. We got the Boning X vanes on there, 3 inch, and then up front, like I said, running the Easton match grade collar, stainless steel, and the match grade field tips with the 16 grain factory hit insert at a total of 429 grains. So there you guys have it. That is my arrow setup for this season. Let me know what you guys are running down in the comment section below. I know I'm probably going to get some flack for running a light arrow setup. Nowadays, it's crazy that 430 grains is considered light. Used to, guys would shoot 350 grain arrows, and that was considered standard back in the day, but for whatever reason, now people want to shoot 700 grains, which just blows my mind. Anyways, let me know what you guys are shooting down in the comment section below. If you disagree with me, feel free to comment and just be respectful. Appreciate you guys watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.